Christopher Nolan made the Odyssey for modern audiences. And look at that, here they confirm it. Christopher Nolan made the Odyssey for modern audiences. And look at this guy with his little helmet and everything. Incredible. Now, so you can understand how far this has gone, it turns out that a few days ago, the following was leaked. Christopher Nolan explains why the Odyssey uses modern dialogue rather than ancient Greek. Maybe I was being naive, but I wanted to be realistic. Of course, Nolan, casting Lupita Nyong'o as Helen of Troy is very realistic, isn't it? But anyway, for now the trailer has no less than 728,000 dislikes on YouTube and 77,000 likes. It's wild. Anyway, let's see what people are saying.
Why does Helen's casting in the Odyssey bother people? People are tired of nonsensical casting choices.
I think the same thing too. I mean, look, I know a lot of people could argue, and rightly so, that people shouldn't get upset if they haven't even seen the movie yet, and that probably, knowing Christopher Nolan, the movie will end up being good. And yes, I think that's a valid argument, but I also understand the audience. The truth is, in recent years we've had some pretty questionable castings. Casting choices that don't make any sense, where they changed the physical appearance of the original character. Incredible. I mean, it's crazy. Totally crazy. And look, I'm not denying Lupita Nyong'o's talent as an actress. Right? Because she's a good actress. What I'm saying is that she shouldn't play Helen of Troy. Period.
It's not that Lupita Nyong'o is a bad actress.
No, she's not, just to be clear.
The problem isn't really her. It's that there have been many cases like this before, even though in some cases they're good actors like Michael B. Jordan.
Of course, Michael B. Jordan is a good actor. And yet he played the Human Torch, which doesn't make any sense. And it turned out badly. We already know how that went. No.
In this case, they just don't make sense. It's fine. If you're going to make a very radical change to the character, at least make the effort to justify it.
But just look at what they did with The Little Mermaid. Look at what they did with Black Tinkerbell. Do you remember what they did with the black bald fairy in Pinocchio? What they also did with Snow White. I mean, it's crazy.
They just don't do it. And if they do, it's not very convincing. At that point, anything that's controversial or a very radical change is called woke.
Very true. I mean, there are people who are tired and annoyed, and this is where I ask myself, what was the need to create a pointless, absurd controversy? Do you think Christopher Nolan needed a controversy like that? Of course not. I mean, Christopher Nolan is one of the most successful directors in all of history. Guys, he's one of the best directors of all time. That's Christopher Nolan. Honestly, his level is insane. And I don't think he needed a controversy like this. Not at all. But anyway.
It's nearly split into two sides. Those who support inclusion and those who see it as forced.
Look, is this forced? It is, definitely.
Lupita Nyong'o and the Odyssey are now part of the controversy. I'm sure Lupita Nyong'o will be amazing, but I hope the film explains the reason for this change.
Please.
In the work and the original material, it is not explicitly stated that Helen has white skin.
They don't care. Those are just excuses. They truly don't care.
But being the daughter of Zeus and considering the historical period on which this work is based, this casting doesn't make much sense. The best character to explain how to do this change right is Miles Morales. Very true. Just make Peter Parker black, and that's it. Because Miles Morales is a character with African American roots.
At the time, he was somewhat inspired by Barack Obama or something similar. And despite everything, he turned out to be a pretty good character. Miles Morales is a success. We can't deny that.
And Mexican. He's a character with a lot of personality, a lot of background.
And keep in mind, the existence of Miles Morales doesn't erase Peter Parker. They still acknowledge the existence of an iconic legendary character like Peter Parker, guys. And Miles Morales is simply another version, another variant of Spider-Man. So, from my point of view, Miles Morales is the perfect example, right, of inclusion and diversity. It was something that was well-founded, it worked and turned out really well.
He has become a fan favorite, and even though it was a very radical decision.
Well, one of the favorites, to be clear, because I think the vast majority of fans especially love Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, and others prefer Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man.
They found an organic way to introduce Black Spider-Man.
Of course, it turned out well for them. There's no doubt about that.
He's nothing like Peter Parker. They're totally different. It's the exact opposite of what happened with the Human Torch and the Little Mermaid.
It's the exact opposite of what they've done with many movies.
So that's it. It's not explicitly about Lupita Nyong'o. It's that people are tired of so many casting choices being made just for the sake of it.
It's the frustration that's built up. It's that simple. It's a matter of people being fed up. People are fed up. I mean, what happened with this movie's trailer is total exasperation. In fact, another thing that bothers people was that rumor that supposedly Ellen Page was going to be Achilles. Which was obviously crazy, just imagine.
It has nothing to do with discrimination. It's just about consistency and that it feels natural.
Of course, but what happens when one of these movies fails? Now, I'm not saying that the Odyssey is going to fail. I don't know. It's Christopher Nolan, one of the best directors in history. But the point is that when one of these movies or TV shows ends up failing, they point at you and say, it's because you didn't want to see a minority empowered on screen. It's because you're sexist, racist, phobic, blah. Which I think is completely nonsensical. Because basically, these are people who lack self-criticism, and they blame and point fingers at others for their own mistakes, which I find unbelievable and ridiculous. But anyway, let me remind you that this movie, The Odyssey, is based on Emily Wilson's feminist adaptation. A version that removes traditional sexist language, offering a deeper and more complex look at the female characters. Femeninos. And in fact, the writer uses it that way. I mean, we've already shown this, but just imagine. A movie adapted for modern audiences. Obviously, Christopher Nolan is such a genius that he can even make it so that a movie like that turns out, well, more or less, right? That convinces a few people. Now, there's an interesting thing we need to clarify here. I don't know how this movie will do. I know it needs about $625 million to be profitable. Tough, complicated numbers. But since it's a movie released exclusively on IMAX screens, obviously the profit per seat will be much higher. And besides, those are numbers that Christopher Nolan has reached in the past. But there's something here I want to mention. I think that if this controversy surrounding The Odyssey had never existed, the movie would have made much more. I'm telling you this with almost total certainty. No matter how much the movie makes, without the controversy, it would have made more. Even if the movie makes 500 billion. Well, without the controversy, it would have made 800. It would have made 900. I guarantee it. That's why I think it's an unnecessary controversy. They're telling us here. Do you know what that means? About modern audiences. Incredible, guys. In fact, they're telling us here. Christopher Nolan's new film adaptation of The Odyssey has sparked debate among critics and audiences after it was confirmed that the characters speak in contemporary English, mostly with an American accent. The film, based on the epic poem attributed to Homer, chooses to move away from the original language in order to pursue, according to its director, a greater emotional connection with today's audience. Okay, honestly, I find this decision understandable, but the rest of the controversy seems so unnecessary to me. What do you guys think? Ladies and gentlemen, see you next time.